Let's go ahead and kick things off. David, want to first start off by thanking you for taking time out of your busy schedule, joining us today. Also want to thank everyone who's either joining us live or who signed up to get a recording of this webinar, mostly because we have a really exciting topic today. If you are a youth or a high school sports program, you probably encounter this topic. And so it's really exciting for me to host a session about the world of fundraising. I deal with so many football, lacrosse, sports programs at that youth and high school level. And I know through that experience that general budgets just don't allow for teams to always get the equipment that they need or the equipment that they want. So fundraising plays such a critical role in the development of these programs, of the survival of these programs, and ultimately in just the foundation of how we keep our players safe and making sure that they have the best equipment and the equipment that they need. That is part of the reason why fundraising is so critical. So super excited to have you on here and kind of bring us all into the world of fundraising. A lot that we don't know, that world has evolved a lot. So we're excited to kind of get that inside look to what you've dealt with for so many years and kind of where you see that world going. You are a fundraising guru that has helped countless programs raise money for their team needs. Before we get into a lot of the details, David, welcome. Thank you for, again, coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the world of athletics and fundraising.
Well, thanks for having me, Andrew. Yeah, basically, I was a high school athlete, played sports. I have two boys and a daughter. I have a son from Kenya, and I have my son Drew and our daughter Kylie, born to us. They're in athletics. I've always been in the athletics world. I was in a different sales job way back when. Had an opportunity 20 years ago now to come into fundraising with a company that before we became Adrenaline, we were another company, and literally my wife found the opportunity. I applied for it. I got the job. Was really excited about working with high school athletics because it's kind of where we started. And then just kind of building it from there. And obviously in the 20 years, things have really changed, right? We've gone from flyers and, paper and everybody collecting cash and check into what we are in today, which is what, I've talked about, the digital world, right? You're in the digital world and technology, and we're in the digital world of fundraising. And there's a lot of different fundraising. There's a lot of different companies that claim they got this and claim they got that. The great thing about what we've created is we literally are a group of reps with 1 to 5 years experience, up to 30 years plus of experience. So because of our new app, Race 365, we literally are able to take all of the old school stuff and all the new school stuff, the new tech guys, the new young guys like you, and implement that into all one fundraising system.
Yeah. So was it when you were first getting involved, was it the athletic side that you were really excited about, or were you also kind of just as excited about how fundraising was going to evolve and how you were going to kind of help take it from paper flyers and gold cards to this new digital era?
Well, really, because it was 20 years ago, my kids were 5 and 7, and they were just getting into sports. And my biggest thing was just dealing with athletics. I've always been a sports guy. We're Husky season ticket holders. We're Seahawks season ticket holders. We love the Mariners, Kraken, all the different sports that we have here in the Seattle area. And it just was being involved with the sports. So I wouldn't say the fundraising side, I didn't know much about it at the time, when I actually got the stuff, other than it was about helping high school athletics, nonprofits raise money. So I would say the actual athletic side is what really got me kind of excited about the opportunity in the first place.
Nice. Awesome. So I guess tell us a little bit more about Adrenaline Fundraising specifically and what you feel really makes that company unique.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about in the fundraising arena is there's so many companies out there now. There's so many companies copying this, copying that. We always talk about we are the copycat company because we are the originals. It started with a company that we were all reps for, and then we formed Adrenaline when that company dissolved, been 15 years ago now. And what makes us unique and different than everybody else, what I've talked about, already, is that the years of experience we have. Nobody has the years of experience like we do in fundraising. So we've got the youth, like my son and my daughter, 25 and 27, and we have lots of reps in the 20s, 30s, and then we have the reps who have been doing the business for 30 years. So we're really able to. It's what makes us unique. There's no company like us out there that has the experience on one end. There's a lot of companies that hire reps and they're not fundraising professional. They're reps running fundraisers. We actually have fundraising professionals that know all the intricate things to help fundraisers from the youth all the way through high school to nonprofits be successful.
Gotcha. So many people might not be necessarily aware of not just like how fundraising has evolved over the years, but what that means in terms of like fundraising professionals. Tell us a little bit more about that aspect of things, and how and almost why it's so critical that you have that fundraising professional characteristic, and how that also ties into helping these programs actually launch and have successful campaigns.
Yeah, and great question, because the key thing with that whole thing is understanding the industry, understanding what actually makes a fundraiser successful. We go from the paper flyers like we talked about, to where we had an accountability and a check-in piece, to now we have an app that literally tracks and collects all of the orders, all of the funds, all the donations, all in one spot. And because of our experience, we were able to implement everything into one app to make things simple, so everything's duplicatable. So what the biggest key with the fundraiser, right, is making it duplicatable, so every single participant that's doing the fundraiser understands what they need to do, and it's simple. The old days of people collecting money, cash and check, there's still some of that out there, and some people still want to do that, but the technology side has really taken over. And our reps, in Adrenaline, we train twice a year, and we train monthly, but our meetings, national meetings, are all about helping us be better and sharing the experiences that we've learned from running a youth program, from running a high school program, from running a band, from running a youth, the youth football programs. That my son has actually done a great job. His youth programs are making $20,000 to $50,000, on an average right now, for profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's insane. So would you say that one of the biggest advantages of now moving into this digital era is that it kind of has taken something that has been so locally focused from a fundraising perspective, right? When you're talking about flyers, you're talking about being segmented to, a certain radius of where your program is, to now going digital. You're getting aunts, you're getting uncles, you're getting friends in other states. Is that where you see this bigger influx of, donations, or teams being able to raise a lot more money?
Absolutely. It's huge, because now, the implementation of social media and stuff in the fundraising, and the fact that we have drop ship products that the participants never have to deliver now. It's literally everything ships to the home. We're talking from cookie dough to tumblers to popcorn to beef jerky to our digital cards, our national digital card that anybody can buy, anybody can use. And the reach for people when they start putting this stuff out on social media with their individual links for the participants is a huge part of them being successful. And our app allows them to have different options of what they want to do, fundraising wise. So it's a really, the technology side of this, as you said, really elevates the amount of money everybody can make, because like I said, you're getting out of just being in your neighborhood, right, to literally using social media and the app to work for you to help you raise more and more money. And the fact that we can ship anywhere in the US really is a huge attribute to helping people raise more money.
Yeah, and I still have like some PTSD when you said cookie dough, because I feel like I'm still trying to work off some of those LBs from the Glazier clinic. If anyone watching this gets a chance to go to like a football coaching clinic, stop by their booth, eat their cookies. You'll regret it the next day when you realize how many cookies you've had. But yeah, that's what I get to look forward to each year is scarfing down some fresh cookies.
Well, thank goodness I was on my 50-year-old diet during that season, so I don't ever touch the cookies.
Yeah.
You and the young bucks can all do that.
Yeah, that's how I keep myself going, is off cookie dough and cookies.
I love it.
Can you walk us through kind of what that process is of kicking off a partnership for Adrenaline? What could teams expect as, starting a campaign? And I know you've kind of thrown out some different numbers in terms of what teams have raised, but after talking a little bit about how to start a campaign, what do you also see in terms of like those who have the most successful campaigns?
Yeah, the most successful campaigns are the ones that really everybody gets involved. And what I mean by that is like if you have a youth program, if you have a high school program, is that for the coaching staff, if it's a high school program, he's got 10 to 20 coaches, is that each coach is involved. They're not involved in collecting or doing anything. They're involved in motivating, be engaged in the app. No different than a youth program. A youth program with a board, let's say they have 20 different teams, is that you have a team mom or team dad in charge of each team to once we do because we do a lot of Zoom kickoffs now because we are able to our reach is national, right? If we don't have a local rep there, we're still able to run a fundraiser for teams. We don't have a local rep in that scenario because we teach them on the Zoom. Literally, the sign up process is a 2 to 3 minute sign up process. They sign into the app. Literally, it's 4 or 5 steps, and they are ready to go, and they start sharing their fundraiser. And the cool thing about our app is it actually sends out auto reminders to help people when they load their contacts in of people that are potential supporters in the system. And then obviously we encourage them to share it on social media and tag family and friends. That's a huge part of being successful. But the biggest key, is being organized, right? Which is what we do what we're great at, right? And our job is to help our board, the board from school district, the board from a youth team, the team moms, team dads, the high school coaches to be duplicatable. I just was up at 4 o'clock this morning. We drove an hour and a half to a 6 a.m. kickoff for a team, and the coaches and the kids were completely bought in. It was 30 kids, 4 coaches. Every coach has his own team, and he's tracking to make sure the kids got their pictures in the app, they got their contacts in the app, they're sharing it, and all of that. So the biggest thing is just making it simple as possible and duplicatable, so that when my message goes to the coaches or to the board or to the team moms, team dads, they can filter that out to the rest of the programs.
Yeah. Now I know there's a lot of variables that kind of go into how much money is typically raised through one of these fundraisers, right? The buy-in, the motivation, the amount of kids. On average for these youth and on average for these high school teams, programs follow the steps, right? They trust the process. What types of budgets are you seeing them raise? I mean, tell us a little bit about what some of these teams who are watching this or are on here today can expect to raise when they, go through the Adrenaline process.
Well, here's the misnomer. The misnomer, just to start off, is the community, what kind of demographic that they live in and all this. It doesn't matter if you follow the process. If you follow the process, you put in the contacts, you follow our system, you'll be successful. But, we have teams, literally, we have teams bringing in $150,000, $180,000 now. I mean, that's just reality. And we have teams that are bringing in 100,000. We have teams that are bringing in for youth programs. Youth programs profit-wise are making 20 to 50 grand. But we do have big football teams bringing in a couple $100,000 gross, and they're bringing in, depending on what they're selling. If they're just doing donations or selling, it just depends how much money they're making. But we have anywhere teams making from 5,000 with 10 kids upwards to a couple 100,000 with 100 to 200 kids. It just depends what they have and what their needs are and what product they're selling.
And are you seeing that the ultimate goal is like, number one, get involved with the trip, right? Learn our process, learn how we do things. But then are you starting to see that those teams who come back every year, continue to work with you every year, are starting to raise more and more money as each new season comes by?
Absolutely. This year was our first year just in Washington State, where we saw an increase because of the app. And this is before our big update that we started in January. This is back in fall. We had an increase almost across the board of 20% because of the app. I mean, I had teams going from making $12,000 to $37,000, going from making $18,000 to making, $45,000 to $50,000. So it's been a whole gamut across the board for sure.
Are you seeing that there are lessons that these kids are also learning through being a part of this process, right? We always talk about the skill sets that kids learn like on the field from playing team sports, but I feel like there's also a lot that they might be learning as being a part of this fundraiser, as part of a different aspect of the team sports that we see on the field. What do you see there?
Yeah, that's a huge thing for me, Andrew, is getting kids out of their comfort zones. We've come into this era nowadays where, everybody wants something for free. Nobody wants to work for it. And this is it's a life skills thing. I mean, to be honest, our kids, they're going to be, well, my kids are older now, but I mean, they were selling to get their first job. They're selling to get their first house. They're selling to get their first car, because you're always after lobbying. And in life, life's about your experiences, right? Well, if you don't have that skill set to speak to people and talk to people, because what are the technology nowadays with kids, right? They want to text everybody. Even my 27-year-olds and my 25-year-olds, they want to text dad. They don't want to call dad. Well, I want to talk to people, right? Well, on the sales aspect, getting kids out there talking to people is not a bad thing. Yeah, they're not carrying around flyers anymore and stuff, but actually being able to make a phone call and say, hey, Uncle Joe, would you mind helping me out? We're doing a fundraiser, getting them to communicate that. If they're in person, they're using their QR code and actually talking to their neighbor to see mowing their lawn, and asking them to help them in their program. That's a huge part, is helping kids learn to sell in life. It doesn't matter, nowadays it's just everybody just wants to sit behind their phone and do things, right? Well, the one-on-one, person to person talking to people, whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person itself, it's a huge aspect for kids nowadays, in my opinion. A growth part too for life lessons.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I assume everyone that's on here today or who's going to end up watching this at a later time is on here because, in part, like they want to find unique ways of raising money, and for one reason to implement our system, the athlete intelligence system. Can Adrenaline help teams overcome that barrier of financial challenges and raise money that they need to invest in our technology?
No question. You gave me some of the numbers that you guys were looking at it would cost, and we know for a fact we can do that. I mean, you can do that with 20 kids. If everybody's bought it, everybody does their part. We have, you can do it less than that, depending on how many kids how many sensors they need. But it is so imperative because of Chris Benise, who's developed our app for our company, and we just keep making updates, and the increase in the numbers that our teams are seeing across the board. We have the proof now to show people that they can see, hey, you really can do this. How many people we have? We have this, and how many people? Yeah, did this. Whether it's 10 people, 100 people, 50 people. Yeah, it's the proof. We have the proof to show it now. And the cool thing is that we're very organized about how we do things. And what I mean by that is not every product is good for every group, right? Not every you need to really diversify your portfolio when you're raising funds, and we're able to do that. So they could be selling 2 or 3 different items of the same thing. Kids are not selling and talking about it. Parents aren't talking about they're selling. What they're doing is they're sharing their links. They're sharing their fundraiser. That's the biggest key. You're not selling. You're sharing and asking people to help.
What do you think is some of the best feedback that you've heard from the customers that you work with in terms of them using the system? There's, like you said, there's so many different options out there. Why they keep coming back to you?
Because we're always innovative, and that's the one thing. Like Coach Bartell at Eastlake, he's actually a motivational speaker now. But the one thing he's always told me is you guys are always so innovative. You're always doing something new. And that's the big thing with what we did with the app is we're just keep updating it. I mean, we're getting ready to add 500,000 national merchants just to our digital card that nobody has. Everybody claims they got it. Some claim they had something good, and we've got it. And what's great about it is that we just know that we're going to always be on the front end because we own the app and we can keep updating it. And Chris Benise, who's really developed this for us, has really just been awesome in taking all of our intel to make it better and make it easier for participants and schools and stuff to raise money in nonprofits.
No, that's great. What's the best way for youth programs, high school programs to get in touch with you, the company, and to get started?
The biggest key would just be, you could go to adrenalinefundraising.com. We're actually in the process of updating our app, but I think the biggest thing would just that you can email me at david@afreps.com. You're the one with the contacts for this. I'd ask them, contact you first, just because it's going through you, because I want to make sure that I know that we're trying to raise funds for athlete intelligence. So I think having a direct contact for you to be the best thing for me, and then have you and James and whoever the reps are, sending me the info, and then I can filter it out to our local reps. Or if they're not local, we'll have somebody that can run it via Zoom. And we do that all the time. Heck, here in Washington, Andrew, as you know, I did 2.5 years of just doing Zoom fundraisers, so we're pretty skilled at it.
Yeah, absolutely. One question I want to ask you as well is, why was it important for Adrenaline Fundraising to partner with Athlete Intelligence?
Well, you and I've known each other for a few years now, and I've never really sat down and actually tried to understand it. My kids weren't playing anymore. I didn't know anything about it. And, I just sat down with you and I started asking you, and James about what is it? I mean, explain this to me. And I think there's a big misnomer about your product, what it actually is. And being a dad who had a son who was a quarterback, and another son who was a wide receiver, and seeing the hits they took, and just knowing that the technology is built to help teach them how to tackle better, and maybe their positioning, and the impact is more of a educational thing. It's not a negative thing of what athlete intelligence does for the football team and for the coaches and the kids. I think that's the biggest thing, is people don't really understand the product, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think you kind of bring up a good point, right? There's a lot of misconceptions, I think, about just that head impact monitoring space, or athlete monitoring space, and part of it is also because it's still fairly new. I mean, we've been around and commercially available since 2015, but it really hasn't become as widespread as obviously we think it should be. But some of those misconceptions are things like, it's going to cost too much money, right? And I think it's because when people hear like wearable technology or data analytics, you're right, sounds expensive. But
it sounds expensive, and it sounds scary at first.
Exactly right.
When you're talking about a sport that has concussions like a football or lacrosse or soccer, any of those, at first it is. I think it's just, that's why it's the educational part is huge, and it literally took you 2 minutes to explain to me, and I'm going, oh, I get it.
Well, why aren't more people using this? Exactly. And we run into that very frequently, and that's why we take a really unique approach to how we even sell the product, because it's really important for us to take a step back and not focus on the sale, but focus on the education. Making sure that people have a strong understanding of who we are as a company, what we pride ourselves on, right? The ability to develop strong relationships, to be open, honest, and upfront, and ultimately our mission of helping sports program create safe environments for their participants.
And that's what's key, is what you just said. The help word is that's where we're at as Adrenaline. We want to help the programs, and we know the intricacies that it takes for them to be successful and how to do that. This is not you're in sales, I'm in sales, but really we're not. We're actually just helping. You're helping in a technology aspect of safety. We're helping in an aspect of helping them raise the funds for that and other things that they need. And I think when people really understand what you guys have created, and your owner, is that, like me, I talked to my wife about it. It's like, if our boys were still playing, this would be a no-brainer for us. And we were like, yeah, why wouldn't we want that? We've seen the hits they've taken, right? It'd be nice for them to know, and for the coaches at least to know. I mean, I don't need the info. I mean, unless I, wanted to get it. But I mean, my thing would be just so they know, hey, they got to do these tackling different, right? Whatever the case may be.
Right. It's a tool designed for coaches. It's a tool designed for athletic trainers. I think everyone wants this piece of equipment that is going to prevent, identify, or diagnose concussions. And that's just not readily available yet. We're not there yet. There's so much, I think, we're still learning about concussions, about CTE, about traumatic brain injuries, and the uniqueness even by athlete, right? Like, I might take a 40 G impact and have a concussion. You might take a 60 G impact and be fine. And we're still trying to understand why that is, why there is that unique uniqueness around the injury. But what we've learned and why this technology in our analytics becomes so resourceful is because we know that we have to eliminate hitting with the top of our heads, right? We have to eliminate crown of head impact. We have to eliminate targeting. And that's a critical piece of data that we're collecting, right? Who are the top 5 athletes with the most amount of crown of head impacts? We also know that it's not just the big impacts, it's those smaller, sometimes called subconcussive impacts, right? The repetitive hits. And when we see those things, we know that's a function of improper technique, right? In fact, a lot of the high school teams that we work with, they call us the second week of using our system, and they'll be like, you'll never believe what we saw. Last week, we run the system, we see that our offensive line and defensive line were taking the most amount of head impacts. Went back to the film, started looking at our drills, and we saw that there was an inconsistency with how they were getting off the line, how they were getting their heads up, how they were getting their hands up. When they spend the time to retrain them on technique and run them through those drills properly, they constantly see a decrease in head impacts. And when we know how many head impacts our players are taking, we can reduce the number. And if we reduce the number, we know that we're improving their ability to engage in contact. We're also significantly reducing the risk of head-related injuries or concussions from happening in the first place. So that's what people don't really know about this technology. I always tell people that we operate off of 3 main pillars that I think are really vital to a successful company. And number 1 is you have to create and offer pricing packages that are affordable for all levels of play, right? So you got to let youth programs be able to get involved in this. Obviously, college programs as well that want to scale to their entire team or multiple sports. And we do a really good job at offering customized packages, having different product options, entry-level products, more advanced products to really hit that entire market and really hit what people are looking for. The second pillar is you have to create a system that's easy to use. When I got involved and really started to build our go-to-market strategy, I wanted to focus very heavily on that youth space, right? You're talking volunteer coaches, volunteer parents, and I knew that if we could build something simple enough that those involved at the youth levels could not only operate it, but understand it, it was going to be that much easier for us to scale into the high school and collegiate space. And the third pillar, which in my mind is the most important, is you have to answer the question of, well, what the hell do I do with the data? Yeah. If you can't answer that, you're not adding value. And that is what we specialize in. We specialize in the ability to take complex data and turn it into insights, turn it into information to where a coach sees it, they know where they have an opportunity. Or when an athletic trainer gets a report, they know that there's an athlete that they might want to pay attention to or go check on. That's what makes this so valuable. That's what makes this so resourceful. And ultimately, I think that's why the teams that we do work with, it's so embraced. It's become a part of their program. We've seen it become of not just a youth program, but how that then spreads into the high school, right? And so you look at the dynamic between a lot of these youth and high school teams and how they're trying to create these flows and the pathway. It allows players to understand what foundational technique is. It allows players to understand what doing it right versus doing it incorrectly is. And we really bridge that gap between how a coach is teaching their players to engage in contact and how they're actually engaging in contact. And that's something that you just won't be able to access without this technology.
No. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is just the clarity of what it actually is and what the analytics actually mean and what you do with them.
Right. And it could be as, simple as getting an automated report right to your email after a session, or as advanced. I know I've got some youth teams who they hold data sessions every Tuesday during the season. Well, they'll get in, they'll pull up Huddle, they'll pull up our platform, and they'll start to really dive into that. But the beauty of it all is it's been designed a way so teams can leverage what fits their program the best. You want to take the time to really dive into the analytics and compare game data versus practice data, or your offensive line versus your defensive line, that's there. If you want to start high level and just focus on these controllable data points, right? Who are my top 5 athletes with the most amount of chronic pet impacts? Who are my top 5 athletes with the most or highest impact workload? They can start there as well. So we have such a wide range of teams that we can support, and that have such a wide range of what they're looking for to accomplish. So being able to mold into each program uniquely is really ultimately why I think people choose to partner with us and see value in it.
Yeah, no doubt. And just and doing the no, having the coaches and the kids know, and them being able to evaluate to make things safer and better. That's what the longevity of any sport is going to be, is understanding the data points like you're talking about with the crown impact, and all that. So it's just, yeah, I'm really excited about this partnership, Andrew, and I really appreciate you guys bringing us on and being a part of it. And we're excited to help your programs, raise the money they need for you guys' technology.
Yeah, appreciate the partnership as well. Before we cut everything off, what's one last thing you want everyone to know about Adrenaline, about the company, and about what makes you guys special?
I would just say that, as Adrenaline, we know that we do have the most years combined than anybody. We understand all the intricacies from every sport you can imagine, from every size you can imagine. And our biggest thing is we know we can help you. Our biggest thing is, hey, get us on a Zoom, get us in person, whatever you need to be, so we can actually show you how you can implement. But there's a business side that we do where we actually sit down and find out, what do they need to raise? How much money do you need to raise? How many kids do you have? And then we set a plan up how the products and the donations, whatever we're going to do, of how we get them to that mark. And so we can educate them and help them understand this is how you can get there. And like I said, across the board, we can show those numbers and show them how they can get there too.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds simple enough, and I've seen what you guys have been able to do. I know you're currently working with a lot of our contacts, and helping to try to be a problem solver, trying to be a good partner. So we appreciate everything that you do for the sports community, for these youth and high school teams. We're excited to see this partnership expand, and provide teams with a very easy and fast way to raise money so they can get the things that they need. Appreciate you coming on here.
Chris, who has his reps in New York, you guys gave him a couple of people that need to raise funds, and they're already off and running. He meant to tell you thank you for that. He's really excited. His reps really excited about it up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said earlier, one of the larger challenges that we run into, 95% of the people, that we talk to, probably even a little bit more than that, they want this. They, when we get a chance to talk to them, they want this, they get it, they understand it, they want to bring it in. But those same programs also run into the challenges that many others run into. How are we going to pay for this, right? And there are ways where they can use athletic budgets and, other unique grants that some of these schools have to offer. But ultimately, the best thing that we can continue to do as a partner is help these programs solve problems. And when finances are a problem, knowing that we have a partner like Adrenaline to be there, to hold their hand, to walk them through this process. I think one of the best things is that, when learning about Adrenaline, right, it's not about like getting someone set up and then saying, okay, here you go, try to raise as much money. You're there throughout the entire process. You're there to help them. You're there to help watch them succeed. There's just so much similarities between our two companies, even though we're in completely different aspects of the market, but we share an aligned mission. We share, aligned service, and an aligned goal of, watching these teams succeed. So appreciate everything you guys are doing. Appreciate you guys as a partner. Hopefully we can help a lot of the teams on here that are watching this raise the money that they need to get the equipment that they want. So
I have
Appreciate
no
you,
doubt
sir.
we can. You got somebody that needs to raise it, and I've seen your numbers and what you need. We know we can get that done for them and for you.
Awesome. All right,
Andrew, thanks
brother.
again for having me, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Welcome back to the, cold weather of Washington, and we'll stay in touch. All right, my man.
Yeah, and congrats on the little one on the way there, buddy.
Yep. I know. I got my phone by my side, just waiting for wife to let me know that she's going into labor. So I'm glad we're able to get through this.
There you go.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.